What's up, everybody? Today, let's talk about 10 reasons why you should read Brandon Sanderson. Number 1, his characters are so well done. You are not going to find characters of this caliber outside of Brandon Sanderson's novels, okay? I know that's a pretty huge statement to make, but his characters are larger than life. They are funny, they are quirky, some of them are really charismatic, some of them are smart, some of them are brilliant, some of them are crazy in an endearing way. You're going to find characters like Lopin in The Way of Kings, which is the Stormlight Archive. He actually refers to himself as the Lopin, not just Lopin, but the Lopin. He is hysterical. You will love him. You will find characters like Lightsong in Warbreaker, really funny character. You will fall in love with him. In his young adult series, if you haven't read Steelheart, this is an amazing book. You're going to come across characters that are so well done. The main character, David, is hysterical. His thing is poorly executed metaphors. You know where he's going with them, but they turn out so poorly, and it's really hysterical. This is actually one of my favorite young adult series by him because he's so well done. You will also find quirky characters like Ellen Venture in the Mistborn series. Really quirky character. You will fall in love with him. You will also find Wayne in the Wax and Wayne series, who is also hysterical. He's so funny. You just can't help but feel he is a real person, okay? So those are just a few examples of his characters that you will just fall in love with. I gotta admit, I've read a lot of books where I don't necessarily connect with any of the characters. I just don't really have any emotional feelings towards them. These characters, they are all real. They are larger than life. I feel like I know these people. It's crazy. Number two kind of ties into number 1. It's Brandon Sanderson's humor. He incorporates humor so well into his books that when I read a non-Brandon Sanderson book, I feel like something is lacking, and usually it's the humor because I'm so used to having Sanderson's humor sprinkled in throughout his books. They will usually manifest in his characters, so you'll notice a lot of his characters are just funny with the things that they do, with the things that they say. So well done. In all honesty, I am a Sanderson snob. Unfortunately, when I read his books, I find that a lot of other fantasy novels do not really compare. I find some element of Sanderson missing in these other novels. Sanderson has an incredible sense of humor. You will see that in all of his novels. You will laugh, you will chuckle to yourself. That's definitely going to be an experience that you will have reading his books. Number 3, his magic systems and his world building, exceptional. You can't find it done better in any other books by other authors. While they're not too complicated, they do possess rules and limitations, and you're not going to be thrown into this world where anything and everything can happen, right? I mean, there are limits to what a character's power can do, and I do appreciate that because I've read other books where it's like you don't really understand the world or the magic system because it's anything goes, and so it's like, okay, well, can't they just fix whatever their problem is because they can snap their fingers and there we go? I don't know how he comes up with these magic systems, honestly. Creative genius. I don't have any other way to explain it other than that, but you will find yourself lost in these worlds and you want so much to possess some of these powers that he provides to his characters. Number 4, he has great merch. Listen, the funny thing is I actually have probably 3 more shirts that are currently in the wash, so I can't show them for you, but amazing merchandise. Here's my little Doomslug. If you don't know who this is, you can find Doomslug appearing in the Skyward series, which is actually one of his sci-fi series. He normally writes fantasy, but this one was really, really well done. I think that you would enjoy it. Number 5, Sanderson loves his fans. You will not meet a more gracious author. Now, I can say this from experience. I used to live in Utah because I went to college there, and so I used to go to all of his book release events. And I tried to go to as many of them as possible because he's so interesting to listen to. He's invested in his fans, and listen, he will spend hours signing your books for you. Look, check this one out. I know it's probably unusual to have an author sign a paperback copy, especially when you have hardbacks, but this was my first love. This was my first Sanderson love, so I felt it was appropriate that he signed that for me. But look at this. This is my copy of Skyward. And actually, my sister had this done for me, but he even wrote a little blurb on there for me. For that airsick lowlander, Jenna. If you do not know what an airsick lowlander is, it's I wouldn't say a term of endearment, it's maybe more of an insult that you might receive from a horn eater. If you want to know more, you will find out more about that in his Stormlight Archive books. I had to have both versions, if you've noticed. I had to have hardback of the Stormlight Archive as well as the paperback versions. I prefer reading paperback, but these are just so pretty. Listen, he invests a lot of time into chatting with his fans, and all of the events that I've ever gone to, he allows for a very lengthy Q&A session, and his answers are always really, really well done, and you can see his sense of humor come out in his speeches as well. Somebody had jokingly asked him, so if you aren't aware, he did finish the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. It's actually those are his only books that I haven't read, only because he finished the series, so starting from square one and having to read, I think there's like 14 or 15 of them, and he wrote the last 4 or 5. I just kind of am only curious and interested in reading his, but I know that's not right, and I feel obligated to read the ones written by Robert Jordan. It's on my to-do list. It's just such a huge undertaking with how many there are. But knowing that he had completed the series for Robert Jordan, there was a fan in the crowd that had jokingly asked if he had any plans to complete the series started by Patrick Rothfuss, and it's the Kingkiller Chronicles. If you've read that series, you know that he only got through 2. We've been patiently waiting for the last one. I want to say it's been over a decade, but Sanderson just laughed it off and said no. Patrick Rothfuss is well and perfectly capable of finishing his own series, but you do think it's kind of funny because poor Patrick Rothfuss fans. I don't know if he plans on finishing his series. There's a reason I've only read the first one, which I did love, by the way, but I'm dragging my feet on reading the second because I know that I don't have a third available to me right away, and I don't want to be brokenhearted about it. But he is so good with his fans. He spends so much time signing books for them, talking to them, allowing Q&A. He's just a very gracious author, and he loves his fans. He loves you, so give him your support. Number 6, his artwork. Let's see. My favorite piece of artwork. Okay, look at this. Anytime you invest in a book, you're going to get a beautiful cover. So, so pretty. But you will also receive some gorgeous artwork on the inside. This is probably one of my favorites. Right here is featuring Shalon, who is in the Stormlight Archive series. So pretty, right? So that's probably my favorite. I'm making a mess of my Sanderson nest that I created. Okay, check this out. So much incredible artwork that can be yours if you purchase the hardback versions of his books. Number 7. This one's a tricky one to talk about. I often hear a complaint from female book lovers in that they dislike the way that male authors write female characters. That is not going to be a problem with Brandon Sanderson. Personally, I think he writes female characters so, so well. There are so many examples that come to mind. You have Vin in Mistborn, super strong female character, really determined, really lovable. You also have Spensa in the Skyward series. Now remember, this is his sci-fi series, which is kind of a leap from what he usually does with fantasy, but Skyward is so well done. Spensa is quite the character. She is just so funny with the stuff that she says. She is intense. I think intense is probably the best way that I can put it. You don't want to mess with Spensa because she will find a way to extract revenge. So really, really great, strong female character. But there's a lot of other examples. Those are the 2 that really pop into my mind. I get it. That's not a common complaint from me, but I do have a lot of book lovers who are female that say that they do not like the way that men write female characters. Not a problem with our friend Sanderson here. Number 8, the writing itself. He writes so beautifully. I honestly don't know how he does it, especially at the speed in which he does it, because you're not going to have to wait long before you find yourself another opportunity to read a new Sanderson novel, because he is cranking out the work like crazy. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, but his pacing is really well done. I never find myself bored or in lulls. Sometimes he does switch from character to character, and sometimes you really, really want to know what happens with one character before you get moved on to the next, and so you want desperately to come back to, okay, well, what happens to Kaladin next? So that is, but his pacing is really, really well done, and you wouldn't believe it either, because look how chunky these things are. I mean, a lot of his books are over 1,000 pages, so this one, amazing, by the way. I waited too long to read it just because the page length kind of deterred me a little bit. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be working on this for months. Not so. I was so interested in it that I just plowed right through. But just to give you an idea, this one, oh my gosh, just over 1,000 pages. So it's 1,001 pages exactly. So don't let the page count deter you. It's really such a fun series. Personally, actually, this is kind of weird for me, but I actually really loved the second one in this series, which is called Words of Radiance. I love this one. I love this one so much. There is a particular scene that takes place in the chasm, and I don't know. I really loved it. I thought for sure that nothing would top the first one for me, but I gotta say, this one was just as good. If not, I think I liked it a little bit better. Anyways, his pacing is so well done. Don't worry. If you're looking at a 1,000-page book, it's not going to take you forever. Don't think that you're going to be bored throughout, because I certainly wasn't. Number 9, work ethic. This man writes like crazy. He can almost produce books faster than I can read it, which is crazy to say, but he is always cranking out work. So when I talk about work ethic, I say it that way because when COVID hit, I think a lot of authors just kind of took some time off. They took their time writing their books. Not Sanderson. He reinvested the time to write more books because he wasn't doing tours, because he wasn't doing any events where he was doing Q&A or book releases or whatever the case may be. He reinvested that time into writing more books, which is why I signed up for his secret project initiative, which I forget what it's called, but I got it on Kickstarter. But you get all these amazing book boxes, and you'll find a lot of really fun things in there. Let me show you. You have no idea how long, well, gosh, I sound so dramatic when I say that, but he wrote a book recently. It's called Tress in the Emerald Sea. I've been waiting since January. Realistically, logically, my brain knew that I would not be receiving it in January, but the hopeful part of my heart was really hoping that I would get it, but I just got my copy today. And check this out. You'll get not only the book, but I have now a Vin pin, which I'm really excited to put on my backpack. So we got that there. We also have a Tress sticker, which is really pretty. We also have this gorgeous bookmarker. Oh my gosh, look how amazing that is. I know the glare is kind of bad, but check that out. So pretty. Okay. And then lastly, but most importantly, we have Tress in the Emerald Sea. Ooh, I've been waiting for so long. Once again, I'm so sorry about the glare, but I think you can still tell that this is gorgeous. It's still in the plastic wrapping, so I'm reluctant to open it, but I'm so excited to open it. I sound crazy saying it that way, but in the back, I actually don't know much about this because it was a secret project. I was reluctant to find any spoilers about it, but now that I have it, I can tell you, in the middle of the ocean, there was a girl who lived upon a rock. This was not an ocean like the one you have imagined, nor was the rock like the one you've imagined. The girl, however, might be as you imagined, assuming you imagined her as thoughtful, soft-spoken, and overly fond of collecting cups. Again, with the Sanderson humor. I was just talking about how he is just kind of silly, he's quirky, and you'll see that in his characters too, so I can't wait. It does look long. I can't tell you how many pages there are in here because I haven't opened it yet, but very, very exciting. So again, I was talking about his work ethic. Tress in the Emerald Sea was a product of his work ethic. He could have taken time off now that he wasn't doing book tours and book releases, but he reinvested his time into making more books for his fans. So again, he loves you. He loves his fans. So the secret projects, that's what I signed up for last year. There are 4 that are going to be released this year, so Tress is only number 1, so I'm looking forward to receiving the other 3. Number 10, his support for fellow authors. Obviously, this man has a mind that can generate thousands of stories, and he can generate them well, yet he makes time to collaborate. I had already mentioned before that he finished the Wheel of Time series for Robert Jordan, which is such an incredible thing because I know he probably had to put a lot of his other stories on hold to be able to do that, but it was a very important thing for him to do, and I'm so glad. I don't think there was a better person to be able to complete that series for Robert Jordan. Once again, I will find time for that eventually. It's just such a daunting task, and I'm really most interested in the books that Sanderson wrote, but we'll get around to it one day. And once again, we were talking about his support for Patrick Rothfuss. There was no hateful words exchanged, just kind of a playful banter of, oh, well, he will get to it when he gets to it, no worries. All right, y'all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I really hope that you find time to read Sanderson because I really don't think that you will regret it. There are so many good stories that I've surrounded myself with right now. I've totally made a complete mess of my Sanderson nest here, but maybe I'll try to put it back together because this is a very cozy little spot. But I have to say, if you aren't looking for a series to get into, because I know that can be daunting, I know that looks like such a huge commitment, he does have a few standalone books, which I really liked. I think I mentioned it before, but oh my gosh, now I can't find it. The first book I ever read was Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. This is currently a standalone. I think that he had made mention of writing a sequel at some point in time. This one, amazing. I am so embarrassed to admit that at first I was really resistant to it only because my brain was not open-minded towards fantasy. I was reading a lot of just regular everyday life fiction, which is great, by the way, but I didn't really get it until I got about 150 pages in, and then I was a lifelong fan. I think it's just I didn't enjoy it initially because I was so close-minded to it, but once I opened my brain and accepted the realm of possibilities that he was throwing at me, I fell in love. So highly recommend this one. Also, this one, Elantris, is currently a standalone book as well. I do believe, again, that he had talked about writing a sequel, but I don't know if that's in the books for any time soon. Really, really well done. I love this one as well. So there are options if you want to just do a quick Sanderson read without getting invested in a series, but there is a reason why he has die-hard fans, because you will always be, so not only are his characters memorable, even books that I read of his 7 years ago, I may not remember exactly how the story unfolds, but I remember the characters, which is crazy, and I remember them as if I knew them in real life. And he also does this thing, I want to say they call it a Sanderlanche. He will use foreshadowing a lot to show you what's going to happen, but you still won't pick up on it. It will still surprise you and knock you down at the end. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me where I should have seen it coming. He gave me clues several times throughout the book, yet I failed to see it and understand it and recognize it for what it was. So again, with the brilliance, again with the creativity, you're really not gonna find anything lacking from his books. At least I don't. I know that everybody has their own opinion. So if he's not for you, no worries. I get it, but he is definitely for me, and I understand why he has die-hard fans. Catch y'all later.